Guys, do your iPhone photos suck? Like every time you take a photo with your iPhone, you're like, oh man, this is gonna be amazing. And then you take the photo, it looks like this. Today's video is gonna help enable you to take much better photos on your iPhone. This is a two-part series, so if you've already missed the first part, which we launched last week, make sure you guys go ahead and check it out. I'm gonna link it up here somewhere as well. Alright, so the first tip we're going to talk about is when you're actually filming or taking a photo, you want to make sure that you're using your touchscreen often. Okay, so in this example, we're going to be using both a plant and a camera. The first step is when you're taking photos, you can actually press on the screen what you want the camera to focus on. So that not only does it focus on that product, but it also exposes for it. Let me show you what I mean. So I've purposefully placed this camera over here with the window behind it where, you know, it can get blown out. Where you can see the highlights are blown out over there. Now when I focus on the camera, you see how the window is completely blown out, like you can't see anything there. But let's say if I focus on the back window, now you can see the trees, but look at my camera now. You can see that Canon is completely, well not completely, but pretty blurred out. Like it's tough to read, you can't see the camera, it's kind of all blacked out. When I come back here, now it exposes for the camera, so it's increasing my exposure, but it's also focusing on my camera, it's a lot more clear. So the first step is you want to make sure that you're touching on the screen and making sure that you focus on what you need to capture in your photo or your video. Okay, now this next step is a continuation of the last one. When you actually set your focus point, you can actually go ahead and put your finger wherever this box is and drag up and down, and it will either increase the exposure so you see my photo getting brighter as I move my finger up, or if I bring it down, you'll see the photo getting darker. Now, the third tip actually is also related to this, but if you want to lock in your focus and your exposure, because you see how, like, let's say I focus on here, but now the next second if I move it somewhere else, right outside to the window, then it starts focusing on the window. Bring it back to the camera, it focuses on the camera. Now what I can do is this, as soon as I click here and it adjusts and focuses for my camera, I can press and hold for 2 seconds. Now my camera has effectively auto locked, and you can see up here where it says AE and AF auto lock, which means auto exposure and autofocus is locked. Now even if you move to the window, you're gonna see that it's still gonna be blown out, it's not gonna change. Now this is really helpful if, let's say, you're doing a product shot and you want to kind of move your camera around. So let's say if I didn't have this auto lock, I tapped here long tapped here again to get rid of it. Let's say I have it focused on my camera. Now if I'm doing a shot, you see how it shifted to the back over there, and now the trees in the background are in focus and the camera's out of focus. I don't want that. So now again, I go in here, I auto lock. Now I can do my shot and it'll be perfectly fine. Also, by the way, sorry about the mess. Please don't comment on that green bottle you saw in the last shot or all this mess behind me. I just moved into my new studio, so everything is just a mess. But for this next tip, you can actually set it up so that you can use your volume rocker button up or down in order to take photos. Now, this is really helpful, especially if you're holding your phone out like this and you don't want to, like, you know, sometimes tap your actual screen in order to take the photo. That way, I don't have to, you know, even play around with the screen or mess with the screen, and I don't change, like, you know, the exposure or autofocus or anything like that. Plus it just feels a lot more like an actual camera. Alright, we're crushing these. Hopefully these have been helpful so far. But for this next tip, it's basically allows you to take a whole bunch of photos, and then you can choose one photo so that you don't clutter up your entire camera roll, and then select that as the photo that you choose. Now this is called burst and select. So in order to do this, all you gotta do is make sure you're pressing the power, like the volume up button. So if I'm taking a photo of my bike here, I'm just gonna go hold the volume up button. Now all you gotta do is go into your Photos app, and you're gonna basically see just one selection here. You're gonna hit that button that says select. From here, you're gonna see all the photos, burst photos that you took. Now Apple does something pretty cool where they actually put a dot underneath the photo that they think is best. So let's say if that's the photo I like, then I can go ahead and tap that. That will make that selection, and then I go done. And then it'll ask me, do I want to keep everything or do I only want to keep the one favorite? I go keep only one favorite. All the other photos are wiped out. Very helpful. Okay, so for this next shot, we're gonna be looking at portrait mode. And now I love using portrait mode on the iPhone because it blurs out the background, gives it a similar feel of like shooting on like a DSLR or something like that. But It's a little limited, but nonetheless, there are some controls that you can do with it. Now, when you're actually in portrait mode, it basically blurs the background up, but what you can do is you can tap this little F icon here, which basically corresponds with f-stop, and it will give you the option of blurring it more, so you see my background get completely blurred out, but it looks very fake. Or you can reduce the blur. Let's say you don't want it too much. So in this case, where the phone is actually struggling to get like a good depth of field, where it's like cutting off part of the camera, it might be a good idea to increase the f-stop a little bit, just so you get a little bit of background blur, but it's not too fake. On that note, another thing you can do is all these icons that you see here on the left, you can actually click them to activate them. So if I want to shoot RAW, I can click RAW and it'll activate RAW. If I want to make it a live photo, then I can click that. Or if I want to turn on flash, I have flash here, or I turn off flash. Now, another thing you can do is click that arrow. It'll give you a whole bunch of more options here to play with. For example, this will give you a color grade. So let's say right off the bat, I want to color grade on my photo so that I don't have to color grade it later. I can do that right out of camera. Let's go back here. I want to set a timer. I can set a timer. I can change what kind of photo I want. So let's say if I'm posting on Instagram and I want a square photo for some reason, or I want a 16:9 photo, then I can do that right here. All in all, you have a whole bunch of options here, so don't forget to use them. And that brings me to another tip. What you can do in video is you can actually tap the 4K 24 that you see here on the top left, and it will change. If you tap the frame rate, it will change the frame rates to all the different options that you have here. If you tap the 4K, it will change it to HD. So let's say you want to go into HD, 60, 30, you have that option. Let's go to 4K. We're going to shoot 4K 24, then we have that option. So you don't have to always jump into the actual settings app in order to change that. You can do that right out of camera. Pretty cool. All right, and the last and final tip that we're gonna go over today is the fact that when you're taking an actual photo, so sometimes when you're doing top-down shots, the second you go top-down, the iPhone recognizes what you're doing and it will place a little crosshair right in the middle. And then the white one is basically telling you the dead point center, like right above the item or product or whatever you're trying to film. And then the yellow one shows you how far off you are. So if you want a perfectly good top-down shot that is centered and doesn't have much distortion, you want to make sure that you line up that yellow crosshair with the white crosshair to the best of your ability. That will give you the best possible top-down shot that you can get. All right, so that's about it for today's tips and tricks. I hope you guys found that helpful and beneficial to you guys. Hopefully you guys can take these tips and tricks, implement it in your life, and kill those photos so Patricia is not showing you up at work every single time with, oh my God, look at my holiday photos. They look so fab. Do people actually say that? I don't know. If you guys liked this video, found it beneficial and helpful, please go ahead and like it, share it with your friends and family so they can take better pictures of you once this lockdown is done and you actually get to go to a family reunion. And also don't forget to check out the last video so your settings are all dialed in and perfect, and make sure you guys sub to the channel so you don't miss more videos from us. So make sure you guys are subbed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.